Discover the best-kept secrets from the leading entrepreneurs across the globe. Learn from the greatest minds in business with the MyCoda podcast. Here's your host, Sam Payne.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the MyCoda podcast. My name is Sam Payne and it is a pleasure to be speaking to you today, guys. Now, in today's show, we had the pleasure of speaking to Lance Jones of Copyhackers and AirStory. Now, you may not be familiar with AirStory, but Lance and his partner Joanne Weeb, those guys are also business partners and partners in life, and they are killing it at the minute, guys. The software they're bringing out, AirStory, is going to be launched later on this year, and Lance talks about what AirStory does, how it's going to benefit you, and when it's coming out. The story about how they developed AirStory, the process they're going through now to bring it to where it needs to be for the launch in October. And it's just a really useful insight in how they've put together AirStory. And for the guys that are listening who are considering going into the software route, this is definitely one to listen to. But something you may be more familiar with is Copyhackers. Now, Copyhackers has been live for 5 years now. And Lance and Joe started that off purely because they noticed that people were struggling with copy on their site. And Joe had a natural talent for copy and portraying the message that people actually wanted to get across through their online businesses. And Joe found out that she was extremely good at this. So her and Lance, as I said before, were actually partners in life as well. They decided to roll with this and set up Copyhackers, and they've just grown it into this amazing resource, guys, that just offers so much value. And I cannot recommend getting on there and just seeing how this can help you with your business. Now, Lance goes into so much detail in this interview when it comes to software, the process they've gone through to set this product up. That's AirStory. And then with Copyhackers, guys, we go into common mistakes people are making with their copy, how to overcome them, how to get your message across, how to strategically place call to actions so they convert better, the types of call to actions to use, the types of call to actions not to use. I mean, for anyone that's got an online business, this is the one to listen to, because if you can't get your message across, guys, there's no way people are going to buy from you. So sit back, relax, enjoy this episode, guys. Lance delivers above and beyond on the value front. So get your notepads and pens out. This is the MyCoda podcast with Lance Jones of Copyhackers and AirStory. Hi, Lance. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic, Sam. It's good to be here with you.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, man. Really appreciate your time. As we're going to discover in this interview, you've got a lot going on. You're a very busy guy. So we're looking forward to see what comes of this one. So before we kick things off, just for the guys out there that may not be familiar with you, could you just please introduce yourself and what it is you do?
Sure. So, my name is Lance Jones. I'm in Canada, in British Columbia, Canada, and I work with Joanne Weeb. She's my partner in business and in life outside of our businesses. But we run Copyhackers, which is a site that Joanna really put together. She launched it almost 5 years ago now. I was helping her sort of weekends and evenings, and I joined her recently full time because the business has been picking up steam, and there's a lot more that we want to do with it. And then we also have a SaaS product that we're in the process of building called AirStory. And so I'm kind of product managing that, and of course Joanna is integral to that product as well. So yeah, those are the two big things that we have on the go.
That's awesome. And I mean, this podcast is all about business startups, so I love to get the background story on all the guests that come on the show of how they first started out, because it's always the startup phase, especially for a first company, is always quite a big moment for people. So, I mean, could you take us back to when you first started? What change took place in you which made you decide you wanted to become an entrepreneur and start your own business?
Sure. Well, and maybe I'll merge some of Joanna's story in here as well, because it's so relevant and because we're together. But yeah, so I've always wanted to be, I guess, financially independent, be an entrepreneur. I've tried some different things in my life. I'm in my 40s now, and but I started in my early 20s trying some different things. I actually tried a board game. Building a board game, and we actually had Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger interested in partnering with us on this board game.
Wow, that's
but
so cool.
the partner I had at the time decided to run off with the investors' money. So that kind of fell flat after that.
Nice, good start.
but anyways, from that point on, I've always been excited and interested to try to develop a product and get it out there. But I really just haven't pursued it, even though I was passionate about it, haven't pursued it sufficiently. I ended up sort of getting into the corporate world. I was working for PricewaterhouseCoopers, traditional consulting firm. I worked at Intuit, the maker of TurboTax and QuickBooks, and that's where Joanne and I met. Actually, was at Intuit. Spent a few years at Adobe. So all really large companies of software firms. But all the while there, I wanted to try to figure out something that I could do on my own. And it just turns out that back in 2011, Joanna, we were both at Intuit, and Joanna was really not happy with her boss at Intuit, and he was a very difficult person to work with. And she had written this sort of "I quit" email a bunch of times, but she kept that in her drafts in Outlook. And one day, in a fateful September 2011, she ended up sending that email inadvertently, and she quit. So we looked at each other. We did not have a chuckle. It was pretty stressful. She wanted to know if I knew how to recall the email, and of course that didn't work out. So she left, and we've been talking about some ideas she had, and I got excited about the idea of maybe some ebooks to help people do better at copywriting for their website or their products. And she dove right in, and she started to participate in Hacker News, which is a community that I was hanging out in, and that's where we launched the first ebooks that Copyhackers produced in October 2011, and things took off, and so I've kind of watched her build and grow Copyhackers from the sidelines to an extent. But I would, again, weekends and evenings, I would definitely be helping. And it just came a point in time where it's like I'm finally in my 40s ready to get out of the corporate job and into a startup, into our own business, and and off we go. Yeah,
that's awesome. I love that. And I mean, you mentioned that Joe, you was keen on doing the copywriting stuff as well. So was copywriting something that was a skill set for both you and Joe, or was it more one over the other?
Definitely one over the other. I mean, Joanna had worked at an agency, a digital agency, prior to joining Intuit, and so she really cut her teeth there on working with clients and having to develop ads, offline or copywriting for offline work like brochures and selling real estate, but also a lot online as well. So she really, and her passion has always been writing through university. Mine not so much, but at Intuit, I was put in charge of the websites for QuickBooks and TurboTax for Canada and some of the other sort of non-US regions. And I really got passionate about how we're communicating about our products and learning a lot at that time. So I got to work with Joanna. I learned a lot from her, and we pushed each other, I think, in figuring out how to best use copy to market and sell. And so she turned this into this idea of conversion-focused copywriting. And so we've been working through that for the last several years. But she's the copywriter. I'm the student. I learned a lot about how people use websites, like usability-wise, interaction design. I'm not a designer, but definitely I understand how people use products, digital products. And so we've made a good team that way, and that she's taught me the copywriting. I've talked to her a lot about conversion optimization and A/B testing and those sorts of things. And we're using both of those skill sets to build our business.
Yeah, and I mean, to focus on one thing like copywriting is quite niche within the web development, building websites, building online companies. So was there any temptation once things started getting momentum to branch off into other areas like developing whole sites for people, or was you always just purely focused on the copy element of everything?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because there's always been the pull. As we got more well-known, Joanna more well-known because she's done so many speaking engagements at conferences. I mean, every time she comes back from a conference, she gets hit with requests to do consulting work. So can you write our website? Can you write our sales letter? And we've done that. So she's taken on a lot of projects over the years, and I've helped out on a couple of recent ones. So there's the lure of getting that payoff with consulting, but we definitely have stayed the course. Though we known our core at our core, we want to teach people how to be better at copywriting and not do the work, right? And so we've just, not too long ago, we made the decision, kind of like no more client work because it ends up being a distraction from us building our business. It's great for revenue, but it's not great for growing the business of teaching people how to be better at copywriting. And we knew right from the beginning that there's so many people who want to have this skill, because at the web at its core is all words. It's writing. Now, yes, video's coming on strong, but there's still scripts for videos that need to be written, right? So copy is central to the web. And so we've always known that that's where we really need to focus.
Yeah. And I think that's brilliant, because I've been one for it personally, where I try and take on so much. I mean, I've got two businesses. I've got an offline and an online business. I've got a gym as well as this. And at one point, I was trying to do so much within both companies. And it was only when I really started putting away from my gym a little bit more that I started getting a lot more progress with my online work. So, and I still haven't niched it down to as much as you guys, just focusing on copy. So I think there's a lot to learn in that. Even myself personally, I'm thinking, right, I need to start like fine tuning this a bit more, And
going narrow is good, right?
Yeah.
Going narrow is good, but it's hard because you think, well, if I go narrower, I'm just going to get smaller. But narrow actually means big if you do it right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I know a lot of people, including myself, would struggle to work with their partner or their wife. I mean, has it always been something that's quite difficult for you guys to establish a business relationship outside of your personal relationship, or is it just something that naturally just happened and worked?
Well, that is a very timely question, Sam. Joanna and I just talked about this yesterday because we had a disagreement. Wow. And that's not uncommon because, unfortunately, I guess, and fortunately, it goes both ways. Double-edged sword. We're both type A personalities. So we both have opinions and we both have ideas about where things should go. Joanna needs to take the lead on the business, and she's taken the lead on Air Story to date, and she's kind of handing off, making sure that I get the product out there. But Joanna's definitely leading the business, so we don't have any conflicts really about that. It's just more about opinions on how we should do this versus that, and so we were talking about, we had a disagreement yesterday, and I mean, we have a nice office space in our lower level of our house. We just moved into this house a few weeks ago because of this great space. But when you walk out of that workspace, you're still partners. And so if one of you felt off or got hurt, let's say by, just you didn't like how the other person argued their point, it's challenging when you come upstairs to sit down and eat dinner, right? Yeah. And so we have to figure out some ways to do that. And we have over the years. So we've been working and living together for like 7-8 years now. So yeah, I hear you. It's tough sometimes, but it's definitely rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, my parents have worked together for over 10 years now, I think, and I often look at it, I don't know how on earth they do it, to be fair. I mean, it baffles me, so fair play to you for that. I mean, it's incredible that you still got such a healthy relationship, Do
your parents make it look easy, or do you see some of the challenges that they have?
Do you know, I haven't really lived at home for about nearly 12 years now, so I wasn't really around that much. I was normally, because I was in the military initially, so I was away sort of Monday to Friday, and I come back weekends when they weren't working, so I didn't really see them working too much, so I can't really answer that, but they seem to be happy. They've been together for nearly 30 years now, so they're doing okay.
Wow, yeah, well, that's good. I mean, and it's an interesting part of the relationship when you've got the work. You're not coming home from work and talking about your day, what happened when I was away at work. You know everything that the other person did at work, so you have to find new things to talk about, not traditional things, right? Yeah.
And I mean, when it came to the idea of setting up Copyhackers, how long did it take you to go from idea generation to the actual launch of the company?
Well, yeah. So I mean, Joanna, I was raving about the Hacker News, this place, because I've always been heavy into tech, and she less so. But there's this there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in 2011 with the advent of the way more SaaS products, people trying to start software businesses and other types of businesses. And so, she participated in some of the community discussions there. It's like a forum for mainly for developers and some marketers. And so she would answer some questions about copywriting on their developer's website, and she was starting to get some traction there where she was like the only copywriter who would occasionally post. And so she'd get people that would like ask her questions in the comments, like, okay, Joanna, how should I do this? And she actually helped this one person, Sharif Bichet, who was starting up a coding school, a developer coding school. And she gave him a lot of help with his website. And he ended up writing a post about how much help Joanna had given and just the amazing community that was Hacker News and that Joanna helped to build. And so they got upvoted. It went to number 1, I think, on the site. It's one of these sites where you upvote the comments, right? And or the stories. And so there was just a lot there happening. Joanna knew that she was kind of like building this brand, and she'd been talking about these ebooks to help people do their copy. Actually, one ebook, a giant ebook on how to do this. She ended up deciding it was going to be too big, and she split it up into like 4 ebooks. But what she did is she just went back with this idea. She went back to the Hacker News community, wrote a post about how she quit her job at Intuit inadvertently, and said, I've got these ebooks that I've written to help people just like you get better at copywriting. And we went out for dinner, and through dinner, I kept getting these beeps, these email updates, and they were sales going through for the ebook from the developers on Hacker News because she spent some time there. She established trust. And so start to finish, it probably wasn't more than 6 weeks from. I mean, there was the time to write the ebook, so let's call it 3 months. But from start to finish, 3 months from the concept to making sales.
That's awesome. That's incredible. And a lot of people struggle to notice when they're doing well or when they're onto something good. So, I mean, what was the moment? Was that the moment for you guys where you realised there's something in this? We should really start pursuing this.
Yeah, there were enough comments. So even something that we get asked about a lot as well. How do you validate an idea, right? That's what you really don't want to make a huge investment, spend a lot of money, and spend a lot of time building an idea that you really don't know. You have no idea if it's going to work. But there was so much feedback in Hacker News about the challenges that developers were having in just communicating what it was they were building. Should they talk about features or benefits? How do they overcome people's objections? How do they get someone's attention with a headline on their website, right? And so there were all these questions, and so we just saw that as well. Collectively, this is just a problem that needs solving. These people, these developers and startup entrepreneurs, need to know how to do a better job writing for their website about their product or service. And so it was clear that there was a huge need. How we chose to fill it, there was a number of ways to do it, but we thought, well, these ebooks, we can produce them once, right? There's no cost to reproduce them because it's digital. And so there's high leverage in that product. And as we sold them, that first launch date was great. So that was feedback. And then we just continued to get that kind of feedback. So it was constant validation that we were filling a need. And that's how we did it.
No, that's brilliant. And I mean, since starting Copyhackers was 5 years ago now? We said nearly 5 years ago, right? I mean, are there any real common mistakes you see people make with regards of copy on their own sites that really stand out to you?
Oh yeah, there are a lot. I mean, a lot of time people are focused on talking about themselves, talking about the thing they've built. They're too inwardly focused on as they're writing the copy. They're not able to pull themselves out of this business that he or she has founder, of course, wanting to talk about this amazing thing that they're building, when they really should be like completely disconnecting from that person and putting themselves in the shoes or the seat of a customer, a prospective customer, where the only things they should be communicating are how it solves how the thing they're building solves the problem that that prospect is, or that potential customer is trying to solve. The thing that they're trying to overcome, the challenge in their work life or their personal life. So just don't talk about, the things that come naturally. It's sort of like force yourself not to talk about those things and then go exclusively on the real problems your prospects have. That's definitely a big one. There's a lot of techniques, of course, like how to write a headline that can be learned by reading ebooks or books you buy on Amazon, whatever. But also, like, people don't think enough about how do people make decisions to whether to buy a new product or a service, right? Like, you have all these things competing for your attention. You don't give, as a consumer at a business or not, you don't give enough attention to any one thing. So you're having to cut through a lot of noise. And if you can't communicate what is very unique about your product or service, how you differentiate yourself from all the competitors and all that noise. If you don't do that, you're just part of the noise, and you're probably not going to have a lot of success unless you really grind it out, right? But that's another big one, is just really not understanding what the true value is to that prospective customer. That's different, that makes you unique from everybody else. Yeah. Getting to that,
And I mean, do you find you're helping people when you're helping people with their copy on their site, that part of the issue is they don't really quite understand what they're offering themselves, or the problem, they don't really understand what the problem they're solving is themselves? Do you think that's a common issue or not?
I do think it's a common issue, because, I mean, I used to go around, like, looking for ideas. I would just sit around with friends and say, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to have my own business. What kind of cool things could we invent? And so, this board game I talked about, that was one of those sessions. And so it's always, people tend to start with the idea instead of the problem that they observe and need to solve. So if more people would start with a problem that they can actually see, they experience themselves, or better yet, see other people experiencing, then you're onto something, right? You're starting off on the right foot with the problem that you're solving, and so that is a key issue for a lot of entrepreneurs, I think. Yeah.
And I mean, for guys out there who are struggling to get visitors to their site, or converting visitors to their site, into either subscribers or paying customers, I mean, are there any sort of tricks or hacks you could share with us that they could use, for example, with like their home pages, so their call to actions or their headlines, for example?
Yeah, hacks or tricks. I mean, I guess it depends. Tricks are tough. What's interesting now is that people are sharing all the things that they're testing out, and the things that work, and they want to write a blog post about this cool thing that they tried on their visitors. And look, it just, skyrocket our conversion. And then the problem with that is everyone else who's listening for those tips and tricks and hacks, they jump on it, and then pretty soon everybody's doing it. And then before you know it, it does nothing anymore, because it's like, it's everywhere, right? Yeah. So I'm not going to hold anything. I'm not playing anything close to my chest or anything, because I mean, there are things that we discover and that we do share on our blog posts, and that we know people run out and use as a tactic. But I mean, I guess that the biggest sort of, hack is just, like, don't hold back on giving value. Like, give it all away. Like, really, if you can figure something out, if you discover something that people are going to find valuable, just give it out. And I don't mean build a product and give it away for free. I mean, if you can help people, teach people, if you're talking about writing blog posts and content marketing, or building a cool, maybe it's a little tool that could help them. This stuff will lead to, if you want this stuff, you want to lead people to your product, into buying your product or service. Everything you can do before that, in sort of like proving your value, proving that you know what you're talking about, proving that you know how to build a product, give it all away, and don't hold it back, because that's a lot of people are giving a lot away, and the bar keeps getting higher and higher. And so you got to keep up with that, because if you're below that watermark, it's again really tough to stand out. So just give it away. Yeah.
And I think I do see a lot of conversations online about the best sort of call to actions to use, or the worst call to actions. So, I mean, what are the worst call to actions you you've seen? I mean, what are the call to actions that are generally used quite a lot, but really just don't do well for conversions?
Well, I mean, any kind of call to action that's the least bit like confusing. You have to make it clear what you're actually asking people to do. If you ask too soon, if you try to present a call to action before somebody's ready, before you've given them like all the information that they need and you've overcome at least some objections, it's really tough to try to, just put that button there or that link and try to get them to walk through it. There's anxiety that people have. Well, what's on the other side of this link or this button? Not actual fear, but just where people just ignore it because there's something keeping them from clicking that or wanting to click through it. So being really clear with what it is they're going to get on the other side. Tell them what's going to happen on the other side of this call to action. That's important. So being really clear about it and making sure that, you've done a good job setting up people put calls to action at the top of their web page. It's like this, it's above the fold. We got to put everything above the fold. But we've proven time and time again that moving that call to action down to the bottom of the page can often it just annihilates the conversion for when it's at the top because you've given people a chance to. I know you can't see my hands. I'm moving my hands a lot, but as you're walking people down the page, they're getting the information they need to take that next step. And so it's like, don't ask too soon. Don't ask for that. Don't ask to be married on a first date kind of thing, right?
Yeah, that's awesome advice. I love that. And I mean, Copyhackers isn't your only business. I mean, you've also got Flow as well. I love this software. I use this all the time actually for my businesses, and I think I'd be lost myself if I didn't organise myself on this as well. So, I mean, what inspired you to create this software? Well,
so just to clarify, so Flow is like a task management or productivity software that's out there. Now that's the job I left to do Copyhackers full time. And so, I was leading the marketing at Flow, and I was not fulfilled there. And again, with Joanna building Copyhackers up, I was like, what am I doing over here? Not feeling fulfilled. And she needs my help. She wants my help. She wants us to do this together. Well, it was a no-brainer to make that jump. But I saw Flow making so many of the mistakes that you talked about already. Flow doesn't know how to differentiate itself from its competitors, which are like Trello and Basecamp and Asana. And if they don't know what they're trying to become, if they're not sure how they're really trying to help their customers, like be super, like turning customers into super customers, right, with their product, then they're going to struggle. And they did, and they continue to do that. At that lunch I was just at, I was just having lunch with the person that replaced me at Flow as leading marketing. And he was telling me the same things. It's the same challenges. We're not sure who our customer is, our ideal customer. We don't know how to differentiate ourselves from the Asanas and the Basecamps. So that's Flow. And then Joanna and I are building Air Story, which is really, it's a Google Docs on steroids. Anybody that needs to create a blog post or any kind of document or anything internally or things that external documents, it allows people to work together like in Google Docs, but it also acknowledges how people actually write. So in Google Docs, you're presented with just a blank page and you have to start writing. But with the product we're building, we've talked to so many writers and people who work on content teams at companies, small startups and large ones. They want to start with these ideas, these kernels of data and these data points, and sort of move them into the documents and kind of assemble the document. And Air Story lets you create all these notes and cards that you drag into your document, and it feels much more natural to somebody than Google Docs. That's Air Story, and that's what we're building now.
That sounds awesome, to be fair. It sounds really good. Also, with Air Story, I mean, is it just you and Joanne that are working on this, or have you got a team in place that are doing a lot of the work behind the scenes? Yeah,
like we're really kind of we're trying to bootstrap Air Story, right? Yeah. And so we're in the process of we've had beta testers, we're building it out, but we've got a full-time developer, amazing full stack developer, and who we work with at Intuit. Now we're paying his salary, but Copyhackers is the business that's generating the revenue for AirStory. So it's funding AirStory because we're not going, at this point anyway, for outside funding like venture capital for AirStory. So there's actually 5 of us on the payroll, and so we have to keep Copyhackers running and doing really well to make payroll, right, and make sure that it's scary, but it's also exciting. But we want to hire more people for AirStory, and Copyhackers will help us do that. Yeah.
So how long have you guys been working on AirStory then?
Well, there was a V1 of the product that Joanna was working with a developer on the East Coast in the United States, and they had a difference of opinion about where the product should go, so they parted ways amicably. And Joanna took the aspects of the product that she had created, and then the developer took the code, and so she's kind of reimagined AirStory. She got to keep the name too as part of their agreement, but she reimagined and build in and design in all the things that she felt were missing from the original version. And so we brought this new developer on in February, and he's been working since to develop the new AirStory. So for her, it's like almost 2 years. For me, it's months. It's 6 months since we started the new iteration of AirStory. So it's kind of an interesting story. Yeah,
and I mean, there's a lot of guys out there. I mean, you touched on it earlier and said a lot of people are going into the SaaS world at the minute. And so for the guys out there who are considering doing this, one thing they might be wondering is how do they find a good full-stack developer that could transform their vision into this amazing piece of software that everyone's just going to fall in love with? I mean, how hard was it for you guys? You just said there you had to replace your developer 6 months ago for this new guy.
Yeah.
How hard is it to find a really good developer, and how did you recognise that this is the person that could potentially complete the job for you guys?
Yeah, it's so risky, right, trying to work with somebody new. So we actually avoided that with Steven, our developer, because we'd worked with him for years at Intuit, and we knew he was a known quantity. We knew exactly how he worked. We knew his attitude, his personality, the quality of his work was all there. So we actually, Joanna convinced Steven to leave Intuit to come work for our tiny startup. And so we're trying to hire a second developer now to help him. And we just had a conversation an hour ago with Steven about this. How are we going to find somebody when we sort of like, we don't know anybody like in our immediate circle who's available, who'd want to kind of jump ship from their existing job to come join us like Steven did. So again, that's another bar that keeps getting set higher. Is you can't just throw a job posting up. There's so many people competing for a limited quantity of good developers that you kind of have to do something unique or different. So whether it's writing a blog post about this amazing product you're going to build, again, that's kind of like giving it away, giving your idea away, because that's not the risk is not giving your idea away. The risk is not doing a good job, building and executing. But if you can show your passion and get people to the blog, some of whom might be developers, some of whom might know good developers, and kind of start you down a path. The other way, the thing that we're going to try doing is Steven is going to be recording a video about, like right now, as he's working on building a video to talk about the things that he loves about AirStory and working with us, and the reasons he left his cushy job at Intuit with the big stock options, and why he came over. Because we think that we want to showcase Steven and him and find other people like him. So we're going to try a video on a landing page of all things. We'll post a job description and link people over to the video and hopefully get some people there. But we're having to get very creative. I think you have to ask everybody you know, and then you have to ask those people to ask everybody they know. It's putting the feelers out. It's extending your reach as far as possible and trying to find that person. I don't think there's an easy way.
No, and I mean, what are your views on hiring freelance developers from overseas, from say India or the Philippines or anywhere like in Asia as well? It's a very popular place to get freelancers from. Have you guys gone down this route before, or do you try and stick with people who are more local to you? I mean, 'cause you must have to communicate with these guys a lot when you're developing these products.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So, I mean, we've worked with, we've had logos designed from overseas, Eastern Europe. Our designer for AirStory is on contract with us, and she's in Russia. She's in St. Petersburg. And we've worked with folks from the Philippines, with Copyhackers, just all over the world. And so, yeah, there's some time zone issues that we have to contend with, and sometimes that may rule out, 12 hours ahead or 12 hours behind. we're just trying to use our personal network because it's more reliable, right? To hire somebody through somebody you know, and it just so happens that our personal network is closer to home. It's Canada, it's United States, it's maybe the UK, maybe Australia. And outside of that, there just feels like there's a lot more risk because we no longer have a personal connection to those people who are in other countries. We're totally open to it. We just don't know. It just seems like take a lot more time and effort to get there because we're missing that personal connection, that 2 degrees of separation or whatever, right? Yeah.
And I mean, you said, I love the idea as well, by the way, where you said you're creating a sales page with a video promoting why it's so awesome to work for you guys, basically. And you said you're gonna post that up on job sites. I mean, so the guys listening in and get an idea of where they can actually look for these people. What sort of job sites are you talking about there when you're saying you're going to post these sales pages to?
Yeah, well, so not Monster, and probably not Indeed or Simply or some of these or Workopolis. Those are real like job factories where there's so many people that are posting jobs and applications. We've used those before, and you just get a flood generally of unqualified people. It's stressful because you're trying to hire. You get bombarded with all these applications, and you got to sift through them all, and you just get tired, and it just works against you. So we tend to use more focused job sites, like for marketers, we go to like inbound.org because that's where marketers hang out. If we're looking for a developer or a designer who really loves working remotely, we go to like We Work Remotely, which is the guys behind Basecamp and formerly 37 Signals, who put that job site together. And you pay a couple $100 to list it for 30 days. But the job postings, there's a much smaller number of them. People are passionate about that working remotely, so you get the right people. I like niche job sites over the giants.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice, and something that guys, even myself, I found that incredibly useful because even now I'm testing developers, one of which is from India, and I've had such bad experiences with guys from India. But this guy's come actually highly recommended, so I've kind of just thrown a loose sort of project at him to see how he gets on with it. But yeah, I mean, I found it incredibly hard to find people to work for me that, one, I can get in touch with when I need to, and two, can actually deliver on what they say they can. I mean, like guys in India, I discovered this actually. Guys in India, it's polite in Indian culture to just agree with you when you ask them a question. So you could say to them, "Can you build this project?" And they go, "Oh yeah." And then I've sent them job briefs, and then they've asked me questions that are clearly in the job brief, and it's like, come on, I've missed a trick here. So, yeah. Anyway, I've waffled on there. Yeah. That's great advice.
I hear you. So at Intuit, I mean, we had a complete development center in Bangalore, and so I know that culturally there's definitely a desire to maybe please the person who's offering you work. Getting to those, you get those yeses, and I think it's outside of India as well. Certain cultures, right, where maybe, I mean, to try to give to break off a smaller chunk of work. I mean, to minimize your risk, because there's nothing worse than being a new entrepreneur. You're excited about your idea, you're excited about the potential, and then the first thing you hit is like you pay this money out and you don't get back something. You get back something that you're not happy with. And that takes all the wind out of your sails. Yeah. You got to get remotivated and all that, right? So, yeah.
Oh, it's horrendous. Cool. And so when's the launch? Have you got a date in mind, or?
Yeah, I don't know if you have like some kind of like video, you're able to get into our office downstairs. You've been watching us the last 8 hours, but seriously, so I keep saying I just had this conversation. I just had this conversation, and so the last thing we talked about with our developer Steven was, okay, all of the functionality for all the new designs that have just come back from our Russian designer. If we can get a UI developer hired based on your video that you're about to put together, if all those stars align, when can we get the product out? And we all agreed we're going to push hard on all those things to make all those things happen. October 31st, Halloween, at least in the Western world, Halloween night is when we want to launch.
Nice. And have you guys got like a sales page where like a pre-launch page that we can direct traffic to, like where you're collecting email addresses, or is nothing up yet?
Yeah, we definitely practice what we preach, and so yeah, there's a page up at a landing page up at airstory.co, and so yeah, you can go if you want to take a peek at what we're building. We've got like a single product screenshot that reveals a lot about the product, and then a way to stay in touch with us. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. No, and I'll put those in the show notes as well. So anyone that's listening,
cool.
if you do want to check that out, just go and I'm going to go on that straight after as well and jump on that mailing list to see what's going on with that. So looking forward to seeing what you guys do with that. And
come over to Copyhackers, right? Because there's lots of free content for entrepreneurs, right? Free content, people love it, and so we'd love to have your listeners there too.
Absolutely. How could I forget to plug Copyhackers?
Yeah, I hope it's something that, I mean, again, it's all free on the site. All that we give a lot away. So yeah. Anyway,
to be fair, I've been a quite big fan of Copyhackers for a while. I was ever since sort of listening to Joanne's interview with Nathan on Founder. I mean, there's so much useful content on there, so I can definitely back that up for anyone listening. Go and check that out because it is an awesome resource. It really is. And I mean, Lance, one last question for you before we wrap this up, and I love to ask everyone this because we get some really good answers out of this one. It's if you had to give one piece of advice to anyone just starting out today, what would it be and why?
One piece of advice. Mm-hmm. Oh, there's so many pieces of advice. Yeah. I mean, so in trying to stay in keeping with the things that I've talked about, it's deeply understand your customers. Like, ask questions of people that you know are experiencing a problem that you're trying to solve. Like, go really deep. Like, really try to get them to almost cry about the problems that they're trying to solve. Like, the deeper you can go with that understanding, the easier time you're going to have building your product or service, marketing your product or service, supporting your product or service. It all falls into place if you deeply understand your customer. So that's the one.
Awesome. Again, another great piece of advice. That's why I love that question, because that's a great piece of advice. And finally, Lance, where can people find you guys online, and how can they get in touch with you?
Well, it's we're copyhackers.com. Yeah. I'm Lance at copyhackers.com and Joanne at copyhackers.com. And we definitely put our email addresses out there and everything. So we're always happy to hear from people with questions, or if they just want to share a story with us. Email, absolutely. We read it all, and we try our best to answer it all too. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Lance, that was a brilliant interview, mate. I mean, tons and tons there that people can work with. So thank you for coming on and giving us your time today, because we thoroughly enjoyed that one, mate. So thank you for coming on, just sharing your wisdom with everyone.
Well, yeah, appreciate that. It's been a blast talking to you. Great question, Sam. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. See you later, Lance.
Bye-bye.
Okay, and that wraps up another show, guys. Once again, thank you so much, Lance, for coming on today and just dropping so many little golden nuggets of knowledge there. Guys, if you haven't done so already, I would thoroughly recommend checking out Copyhackers. The link to Copyhackers is below in the show notes. And I mean, I use this resource a lot. It is an unbelievable resource. And if you are willing to, even if you don't want to pay for a service, Joe and Lance don't care. They just want to help people. Much like us, we are here just to help you develop and grow your businesses. So get over to them, guys. Check them out. And then if you are happy to pay a little bit more for an improved service, you'll get so much more from them as well. So there's something there for everyone to check out. And also, check out AirStory, guys. I mean, that software sounds incredible. It sounds like it's going to be such a useful resource for so many businesses out there. So the link for AirStory will be in the show notes, guys. So check that out. I've already subscribed to that list, guys. So I'm very excited to see what's going to come of that. And I've got no doubt we'll probably have Lance and Joe back on for the launch of AirStory, just to see how that's gone and just to see what the launch has gone like and just to see how it is helping people. So once again, Lance, thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you to you and Joe for all the work you're doing with Copyhackers, because you are helping so many people out with their businesses. And that is it, guys. So to wrap it up, I'd just like to say thank you for listening in. Thank you for your support so far as well. We have got so many downloads already. It has been quite overwhelming, the response we've got from everybody listening into our show. So we cannot thank you enough for your support. And we are just so happy that you are finding value in what we're providing. And if you do like it, guys, I mean, we cannot encourage you enough to share the love, put it around your Facebook group, share it with the communities you're in. And if you really do like it, guys, and you are getting value from this, then we'd really appreciate it if you would just subscribe to the show, rate and review the show, and then that will, again, help us get on that new and noteworthy section, because that way we can really and truly start leveraging this show to get some big names on. And with big names comes big value. And that is all we want to deliver, guys. Tons of free value that is going to help you develop and grow your businesses. And that is it, guys. So if you do want to subscribe, guys, just click the link below and it will take you 2 minutes, and we would very much appreciate that. And we'll wrap it up there. Again, thank you for listening in, guys. It has been an amazing show. We hope you have a great week, and we will see you next time for the next show on the MyCoda podcast.